Hello, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where we explore what it means to truly be human, physically, mentally, and spiritually. The chances are this isn't the first time you are listening or watching the Being Human podcast, but you may not yet be subscribed. If you're not, hit that subscribe button. That's the best way you can support this podcast. It really helps me out. It helps me bring you more of this podcast, more episodes for you to enjoy, for you to consume. If this is your first time here, welcome, and hit that subscribe button too. On this episode of the podcast, I sat down with Dean Maden. Dean is a strength and conditioning coach. He is also a mental performance and business coach. Dean served in the military. He's been training people for many, many years. He is also a former competitive strongman, a world-class strongman at that, taking second in the ultimate world at 105 kilos, amongst many other world-class accolades. Dean shared what most people get wrong when it comes to strength training, whether sumo deadlifts are acceptable or not, why he changed his goal of earning £1 million in a year, whether your perspective does in fact shape your reality, and a whole lot more. Dean is a great guy. He's got so much life experience behind him. He's got competence in many different areas: strength conditioning, mindset, business. So much value shared in this. He shared some really personal stories, really inspiring. I took a whole load of value away from them. I do not doubt you will too. If you do, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below, share it around on social media as well. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Being Human. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Grappler's Coffee. This is seriously strong coffee. I'm a man that is accustomed to potent caffeination, but this is something else. Caffeine is a performance enhancing drug, both physically and mentally. If you want to be getting the best results, you want to be maximizing your performance, you need to be consuming at least some caffeine, and this is the best way to do it. Head over to mrbassets.com and use the code WAG10 for 10% off your order. And now presenting Being Human with Dean Maden. So, wow, first of all, I've got to say thank you for inviting me to your own podcast studio, letting me use your setup. Obviously, it's a bit more advanced than my iPhone on a tripod.
Well, it's not all about how it looks, is it? It's about the content you give out. So yeah, your content's still amazing, mate.
Ah, thank you. But this setup, certainly doesn't hurt. So thank you very much for that.
No worries, man.
Let's start off at the very beginning. Talk to me about Dean Maden as a child, in childhood. Was Dean Maden always the strong guy? Did he always have the mindset? Talk to me about what childhood was like. Was it a trying time? Was it an enjoyable time?
Yeah, so growing up then, and well done for saying Maden as well. Many people say Madden.
That'd be two Ds though.
It would. You're very right. Sound like an educated man. But so, growing up, I mean, ironically, I'm doing more work on this at the moment. I literally come back from a session yesterday with a mindset coach I'm working with at the minute. But yeah, childhood for me was split parent childhood, and I know that affected me massively, still to the day now. I know it does a lot of people. And growing up was very good. I got what I wanted, but too much. It's something I reflect back on now, and because I understand things, I've got 2 children myself. I'm very aware of this type of stuff, but my mum, bless her, she gave me too much. Do you know what I'm saying? And for a parent to hear that, it's a bit like, how can you do that? And it doesn't sound right, but actually...
That's what parents want to do, right?
Of course they do. And she's only doing what she thinks right, and I can't hate her for it or disagree with why she did it. But because my dad wasn't there, she was trying to fill a gap. So do you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm very aware of my life and why I've done what I've done and where I've gone and everything else. And yeah, it's just something that I've always reflected on and thought about, and that's why I focus on not doing that with my children. It's a big part to me. So yeah, my mum, she used to give us everything and to try and help us and please us and to fill that void that my dad wasn't there as such. So I never went without is the best way of putting it. But I was always I was never the kid to sit down and to relax. And I guess because of that, I was always busy, always getting into lots of different things. I was always in the garden. I don't know. I always remember I built a little ramp in the garden, and with the mud, and I used to jump over that. And do you know what I'm saying? I was always out. I was never an Xbox kid or a PlayStation or whatever it is. So yeah, I was always active, and yeah, it was. When I think back to my childhood, I always remember thinking about my cousins that I was really close to. So we grew up with them, and I always used to think, because their mum and dad, I'd go round to knock on for them to go and play football, and I'd have to wait until they finished the ironing. And I used to be like, fucking, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah. Ironing.
yeah. But then you look back now and think, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's something where you actually then puzzle it together and think, fair play to them as parents, and actually, but looking back, it's obviously it's not something that you would say is necessarily a negative thing, but I just got away with too much, and I grew up with two girls, my mum and my sister. I was very mollycoddled, and no, I wasn't, to answer your question, I wasn't that driven, focused, hard, energetic. I was energetic, but do you know what I'm saying? I wasn't that person that I am
and lots
now.
of activity, but not necessarily in a really purposeful
Focused.
direction.
Yeah. But I always think as well, and rightly so, if you grow up with two women, you don't become a woman, but you have more. You don't have such of a masculine or manly sort of outlook, do you? Because
lots of feminine energy, not too much masculine energy.
Yeah.
That's obviously going to have an effect.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I wouldn't lie and tell you that I haven't put girls' clothes on before. but do you know what I mean? Like that. Obviously, it's the funny side. I mean, obviously, there's people out there that like to do that as well, which each to their own. But in like living in with women and stuff, I would be like them in that respect, not wearing clothes, but as in, do you know what I'm trying to say? It wasn't the doing the boy stuff that boys would do. It was more about I would just chill out with them. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's
yeah, I know what you mean, because we need I think men, obviously, the average man has a lot more masculine energy in them than feminine energy, and vice versa for women. And the opposite would be, a boy that's raised in an all-male household, mother's not present. They're going to grow up with so much masculine energy and an absence of feminine energy, to the point where they're maybe not able to access their emotions as easily.
Yeah,
because
agree.
that's a very masculine thing, to be stoic, to not show too much, keep your cards close to your chest. So it's going to have a massive effect if you're if the balance isn't there as a child, one way or another.
Yeah, no, I agree, and as well, rightly so. Any partner my mum had, she had a couple throughout my childhood to, let's say, 18 or something, and like two different men, and then she had a period where she wasn't with someone, but none of them took that dad approach, and rightly so, because do you know what I mean? It's always a tough thing, isn't it? So
I imagine it's a difficult thing for a man to kind of step into a real fatherly position to someone that's not their own blood, as their son or daughter. Yeah.
I think as well, especially years ago, nowadays you see that a lot more, and probably too much, in my opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not to judge people directly, but you often see someone step into someone's life and all of a sudden they are the dad, and it's like, do you know what I'm saying? I'm very aware of things like that because I am a dad, and I've got a daughter and a son. I've got a daughter with my ex-missus, and I'm very aware that my son's mum, who I'm with now, is a stepmum to my daughter and not a mum. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is the real connection, and that's how I think you should always keep it. However, Sarah, my missus, does everything for my daughter because she loves her. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm very aware of that sort of like those connections, and I always think back to my sort of times when I was young, and it's like I never had a father figure. I mean, I've got, my mum's husband now is the best bloke I've ever, do you know what I mean, looked up to as a father, because he's done everything for me, and he's the closest person that I've got to a father. But I always believe in that whole, like, it's what shaped you, though. So prior to that, I wasn't shaped by a man. Do you know what I'm saying?
Those formative years, I mean, like growing up as a child, and then obviously especially through puberty as well, the amount of growth that you go through physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it's so vast. You're going to grow so much more between 15 and 20 than you are from 25 to 30. So the influences you have around you, your environment, the things you do are more impactful, I think, in those years than they are in adult life.
Yeah. It's funny because obviously, like what we're saying there, I'm fully aware of it, but it's not something I've overthought in that respect before. But actually, it's something that I think it's a makeup of who I am, and do you know what I'm trying to say? But at the same time, it's nothing that's different, because actually there's loads of people in that situation that would have been in a very similar situation to what I'm saying. It's just how much you look into it. I'm quite a deep thought person, so do you know what I'm saying? So I look into that quite a lot, of like, because I know you study this stuff as well and you're fully aware of it, but like what happens in the first 7 years is who we are.
Yeah.
It's insane to think how powerful that is.
No, it really is. I mean, you think about things you're exposed to in the womb. Like, I read something recently about the way babies are positioned in the womb. You can be born with hip dysplasia. And if you're born with hip dysplasia and it's not corrected within the first 3 to 6 months of you being a baby, that's going to have a lifelong impact on your anatomy that you're not really going to be able to change too much. You can do loads of prehab, rehab, strength conditioning work, but that anatomy really then is set. So to think, that what happened in a relatively short amount of time is going to have an impact on like what exercise you can do like throughout the rest of your life. Not, you can obviously train yourself, you can work around things. But you're going to you may be set with some limitations that you're going to have to accept, and that can be a difficult thing to stomach when you're in a position where you're taking control of your life and you want to change, you want to do things. You've got to accept there are some things you can change, and I think that's a big thing. Not enough people realise, I can change this. But at the same time, there's going to be a subset of people out there that are really driven, really taking accountability of their life, and they're going to have to accept some things I can't change, some things I've got to accept and find a way to deal with those cards up in doubt.
Which is hard battle, right? Because
absolutely.
That's why we're all so different, and there's a lot of people that probably will never get over those situations, will never feel accepted, and all these different things. It's deep.
So going back to childhoods, you said you were very active. Were sports a big part of your childhood though? Did you work out as a teenager? Did you start going? When did you start going to the gym?
So I was always in sport. I'm trying to think my earliest stages. I struggle to know. There's a gap in my life that I think I've deleted mentally. But there's the earliest sort of stage I can remember. I used to run. I used to do hurdles and sprinting, and then I did that for the county, and I really got into that. Then I went through a stage of football where it was just eat, sleep, shit football. I think a lot of young lads do, and then I got really good at football. I was a goalkeeper, and obviously, especially years ago, there's not many goalkeepers. No one wants to go in goal, but I was just springy and ballsy, I guess, to run at people. And then I played for the county, the local team, Loughborough Dynamo, and then I went to Derby County in their academy. Back then, I think it was called the Triangle or something. That was their training ground. But I did that. I did that, and then I started to get into that lifestyle, thinking that's what I was going to be, and then I got dropped for not being tall enough.
What for football?
Yeah, goalkeeper. It's an old thing. Yeah, it's quite an old thing now.
Yeah.
But
you're not short, so
I'm
how
not.
tall are you then?
Yeah, but when I was young, I was quite short.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like when I think back, like to say my primary school and stuff, I wasn't tall. Do you know what I'm saying? I wasn't. You could probably say I'm average, and I am now. Like I'm 5'9". Like I'm not tall, I'm not short, but especially years ago, there was more. It's a bit like policemen used to have to be tall, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I didn't know that.
If you said that nowadays, I think there'd be some court cases going on. It's true, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, bless. There's a woman that's in Loughborough, and she's tiny, bless her, like little Indian woman. And I always think when I say her, but she's really quite small. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, she's all weaponed up, and I'm sure she's great at her job. But when you think about it, it's like years ago that wouldn't have been allowed.
Yeah.
And obviously it's discrimination, right?
Yeah, but you can see where they're coming from, right?
100%, 100%. And I actually, and I'm not disrespecting this woman that I'm talking about. If you called on the police and she turned up, so sorry, love, but do you know what I'm saying? It's like shit bust, like you'll get knocked over.
Yeah.
She might have pepper spray and all that shiz.
She could be great at her job on the people side. She might be amazing at talking people down in a way that, you know, a big
the difference in
guy isn't going to be.
Yeah.
But if she's shown up to a volatile situation, someone like her needs someone else with her that does have a big physical presence.
Yeah. But that's that thing, isn't it? So years ago that was that, but then obviously in football it was a thing, yeah. Goalkeepers are tall, which is mad, isn't it? Really, because it's like actually that doesn't mean anything now.
Yeah,
I guess, but that's with science that's moved on, and you realise you can actually jump quite high and you can be faster and more agile.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not big into football, so I never really thought about that. I'm guessing the average height of a goalkeeper then is 6 foot plus.
Yeah, I'm not a footballer. Like now, I'd be sick if we started talking about it. To be honest, which is quite funny because I think from stuff I've worked on, that comes from being dropped at that. So I got dropped there. I started then going out around town drinking and partying and stuff. I was 16, 17, and I was going around town starting fights with blokes. Do you know what I'm saying? But that's how my life changed quite fast there, and I feel like that's a trauma from being dropped and not going the direction I wanted to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got I've got a lot of young age traumas that I'm working on, like I say, like now with the unconscious mind stuff, and that I know are the triggers. I don't know how much you know about that sort of stuff, but like, it's not about the event; it's about the emotion, and the emotion has triggered different events that then bring that emotion back. So yeah, that's probably like the knock on of what's happened. But then from then, I mean, it wasn't like a click of a fingers and I changed my life, but I then just started drinking and, getting girlfriends and all that sort of stuff that a normal 16, 17-year-old would do. Yeah. And then I guess I just fell out of that loop of wanting to do something in sport. But from there, I then got into quite a lot of trouble of just, I don't know, trying to prove a point that I was something and I wanted to be heard and I wanted to be seen. And again, that comes from childhood that I'm fully aware of. So yeah. But
that's so important that you are aware of it, right? Because you said about, the triggers to that trauma. So many people won't realise what's actually triggering them and why it's triggering them.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive part of it.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Yeah. Well, I've had to understand it because it's a gap in my life that I knew was needed to be, worked on. So yeah, I mean, going through those stages though, I was just trying to be somebody. I was just trying to be seen and heard, and it was an attention thing, from like a young age. But I don't know if you know the area specifically, but Shelthorpe, like years ago, was like probably the worst place in Loughborough, as in like just violence and just bad boys. And it's funny when you think back now because they're nobodies. Do you know what I mean? In life, they're nobodies, and that's harsh, but it's just true, right? Even if it offends people, it is what it is. They've got nothing to show for it now, but it was just that street cred moment where it was like, I remember walking around the streets, and if you don't look aggressive or give people shit, they're going to do that to you. So then it's like you better do it to them. A lot of people then wouldn't go out for that reason, but I was that person that like I am going out and I'm going to be that person because I don't want to be bullied. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a good / bad mentality because it got me in a lot of shit, but it was like I was trying to prove a point of I'm not being pushed around. But obviously like local areas stuff, like people be nicking cars all the time and just causing havoc, But I never got into nicking cars and stuff. It was never a buzz for me. But then just fighting in general, I just got that like, it's just a young, aggressive mentality that I had where, go out around town, start a fight with a bloke. And I look back now and I'm very open about this stuff and happy to be transparent. But I look back now and think, so I started fights with blokes and they wouldn't come back at me. So I thought I was hard. When actually they most likely would have been thinking you're a little kid. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But to me back then it was an ego lift because I was like, they're scared of me.
Yeah.
And it's mad because you know what? I don't give a fuck if they're scared of me or not. And now obviously if I get that through a child, I'm like, get a grip, mate. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah.
But this is life. This is life.
Difference of perspectives, isn't it?
Yeah, this is life. You know, I've got a puppy at the minute, and he keeps jumping on bigger dogs. And then when that bigger dog puts him on the floor, he's like, "Oh shit, you're bigger than me." Again, that's life, right? We test things, test the water, you learn shit. But it just took me a long time to learn those things when I was young, because I was just trying to, you know, I guess do the next thing to get a dopamine rush, you know.
So when did you join the military?
So in between that sort of period there, what did I do? I did a couple of different jobs and stuff. I went to college. I did a year at college, and then I found myself back into a real shit place of basically in like going around town and then, you know, taking drugs, and I started to get into, you know, party drugs and stuff like that. My mate joined the army, and he was like, "You should join the army." And I went through. I was in and out thinking, should I, shan't I, and stuff. I'm not going to say I was in a place where I was like smart enough to go, if I join the army, I'll get out of this shit. It wasn't quite like that. But because I'm a very, you know, dopamine hit type of person, it's more of a challenge than anything. So I would, do you know what I'm saying? So I was more inclined to the challenge as opposed to the change in my life. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's funny when I think back to that, because when I say it how I've said it before, it actually sounds like, oh, cool, so you knew you needed to change your life. I actually didn't.
Did you think it was more of an ego thing again?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was I can do the army because, you know, I'll say this forever, like I'm good at anything I put my mind to. I am that type of person. Do you know what I mean? Some people are, some people are not, you know? And I am, like, give me something that gives me that kick and that focus. I've got ADHD, right? So that's a clear path to, if you want to get good at something, just get fucking obsessed with it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, it's a competitive advantage, isn't it?
It is.
It comes with
is.
challenges, but it's a competitive advantage as well.
I mean, I say it all the time, but it's like this room. This room was once a bigger room than that, and without a wall, and, you know, next thing I was like, shit, I'm going to do a podcast room, and it took me a week to get this all done. I did it all on my own.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
I know, but when I was doing that and I was putting up my story every day, everyone was like, fucking hell, that was done quick. I was like, yeah, I know, because that's my mentality, you know. So yeah, anyway, so I joined the army, and it was a whirlwind, you know. I'm honestly, I still get tight-chested now from talking about all this stuff, and it's just because I'm still working on bits, and you know, there's various things that I guess I can't say and stuff, but like, when I went into the army, I went in as a bad boy. Do you know what I'm saying? Knowing that I needed to straighten myself out. I tried to get in the army about 3 or 4 times. Went to the careers office, and they were like, "You can't. You've got a record," and blah blah blah. So I had to wait for that to be spent, and I kept going into this sergeant, and he was like, he started to like me. He was like, I like you, and you know, rightly so. Someone that's a trier, you know. It was in Leicester, obviously, as well, and I couldn't drive or anything like that at the time, so I was like, you know, getting the train over and this, that, and the other. And he was like, look, I really like you. I want to help you. So he set out a plan of, looking back, it's probably bullshit, but he was just testing me, right? And rightly so, and good on him. But he gave me some targets to hit and stuff, and I did that, and I waited till my record was spent. I had a fighting something on record. I can't remember what it was. It's the lesser one, not GBH, ABH. That's all. I say that's what it was. It's obviously quite bad in the law, but it's something that when you're trying to get in the army, it's quite weird to go, you don't like me fighting.
Yeah,
it's quite a weird one. Yeah, but actually, rightly so. We don't want head cases. That is the point, right? The political way of putting it. Yeah. So anyway, so I went in. It was insane. Like the way I went through the you know, training and everything. It was, people were dropping like flies, and which I was then like that whole I won't drop. Do you know what I'm trying to say? This is how my whole life is. And then
you see it as a challenge.
Yeah, and then so, but you know, it was insane. I did courses, moved away, did lots of different things, but then in the army, I found myself being, I was a very different person, in a positive way, and again, just because of how I am, I was like, I am doing the whole 22 years in the army, you know, or plus whatever. And I was doing lots of different courses, different things like this, and trying to get as fast as, you know, go as far as I could. My NCO was like, you need to go like some form of special forces, whether you go paras or like, you could obviously, you're attached to them, paras or Marines and everything. So I was going Marines, and you know, all this stuff that I was focused on. And then fast forward, like throughout my time in the army and stuff, I got injured on a tab one day, and I just like had it felt, and I always remember the feeling, because it felt like I just pulled a muscle on like the inside of my groin, and then I went to go see a med centre, and I had a stress fracture on my hip. So like, I don't know if you know the bones, but like ischium, and it's also known as the women's bone. When women grow too fast that are having a baby, it's the pressure, the stress.
Right.
So yeah, and from that, I plummeted downhill like really quite fast. Because I don't know if you know, but in the army you get a white epaulet when you're injured. So obviously you walk around camp and you see someone with a white epaulet. It's a typical thing in the army. You take the piss out of them. You know, and I'm not saying that happened to me straight away or anything like that. It's not quite as, you know, harsh as that. But it's just one of the things, right? It's banter.
Right. It's ribbing.
Yeah, but it's a bit like, I mean, I've never been into rugby, but it's a bit like that type of thing. You know what I mean? Someone's injured, you're a fanny, whatever. You know, all that just banter and pissing around with each other. But my NCO started bullying me, basically. And I didn't realise until later on, you know, and understanding it more. And I ended up losing my shit with him and basically dragging him around and throwing him over the table. And it was like a build-up of feeling of a failure. Now, that's the same feeling that I felt when I got dropped in football. You know, and again, because I've worked on this stuff, it's those triggers again, which is also something that would have happened earlier on in life. And yeah, so from that point, I went AWOL, I took loads of drugs, I drank loads, stayed out, and then I came back onto camp, and I got drug tested. So that was, yeah. But, you know, that's what I've just told you there has took me years to tell people, and I'm very, you know, open, and it still makes me tight-chested, I'm not going to lie. But it's something that I'm better at saying now and living with, because, I mean, me telling you that right now is not, I'm sure it's not blowing your head off. It's quite a normal, steady story. But for me, I built it up over the years to be such a big issue and a big problem that it made me ill. And it made, you know, for years I was in a seriously bad place. You know, I was getting medically discharged because of my hip. But because I then went AWOL and I turned into an idiot, then that just rapidly, I was like out the army, massive, like really fast. I came out and I didn't tell anyone the truth. You know, I lived a lie because I was ashamed of it. I was a failure. Again, it's all these feelings I was getting from who I was before. And do you know what I'm saying? Like, if the way I look at my life is like, I get somewhere, I lose it. I get somewhere, I lose it. And that's then my mentality of what was happening. And yeah, I look back at a lot of things. I often think it's probably something to do with the fact that if you're not guided through life to a degree where you feel supported and everything, then you're more of a loose cannon, aren't you? And I feel like that's probably what happened when I reflect back. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I didn't tell anyone the truth for quite some years. And I was just getting more and more ill as time went on, and I was just being aggressive. You know, I was just being violent. I was just taking my anger out on everybody else as opposed to dealing with what was happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's... sometimes I've almost wished I could be more of a dishonest person, but I've always had to be an honest person for no other reason than the fact that being dishonest creates such a divide in me. Me trying to bottle things up, I'm not very good at it at all. I'm very expressive with my emotions, to my detriment at times. But like I said, the bonus of that has been that I struggle to hold things in. I can't really hold things in. I can't hold lies in. And I imagine that's probably what you were feeling, right? You were being aggressive. The actions you were carrying out day to day was probably a representation of everything you were having to keep inside, everything you're trying to contain, and coming out in other ways.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's some people that, I mean, a lot of people know what it feels like to be depressed now, whether they do or don't, you know, different things, but or being anxious and having panic attacks and this, that, and the other, but I never knew what all this was, but I was going through it all. And there's days where, and I say this a lot at my events and stuff like, but there's days where I couldn't physically get off the floor because I just felt like it was my only safe place. Do you know what I'm saying? And when I look back, it gives me like creeps every time I think about it, because it's just that feeling I had at the time. Do you know what I mean? I was worthless, and I was always questioning, like, why am I even here? You know, I didn't go to the full extent of planning everything, but I was planning on killing myself. Do you know what I mean? And that was that thing where it was like, seriously, what am I doing? Where am I going? Why am I here? And it was, yeah, when I think back, obviously it's something, it is a pivotal moment of my life, because at the end of the day, it's something that made me who I am.
So you're at rock bottom, or if you're not at rock bottom, you're pretty close to it.
Yeah.
How do you get out of a situation like that?
Yeah, so I'd love to tell you that I had a plan. Do you know what I mean? And it's a little bit like when I joined the army, I'd love to have said, I knew I needed to do this. And fair play to people that tell stories like that. But yeah, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have an out. I was living by my daily actions and emotions. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't planning, I didn't know where I was going. I was just going. Do you know what I'm saying? I was walking forward. But this is I guess the thing that I'm always proud of, is, if it's the way of putting it, is that I just never give up on anything. And I always know that I have that confidence and potentially arrogance at points to just keep moving and keep going to get something that I want to get in life. So yeah, when I first come out of the army and stuff, I had it's hard to remember, because again I feel like it's a part of my life that's quite deleted and like hard to actually remember, and which is what happens with trauma, right? But I had a period where I was really low. I was living at my mum's. I was in my room a lot. I was, only going out but not seeing people. It was tough. It was really hard. I was then, when I was going out, I was staying out for days, and do you know what I mean? I was just destructive, and I didn't really have anything that I was focused on. But I started to walk to Tesco's, which is, I lived on the same road as Tesco's, the big one down Pot Road. I used to walk in and out of there. Obviously, the doorman there, the security guard, every when you come in, nod sort of thing, hello, and then in and out. Then I started chatting to him, and then I was like, "Is there any jobs going here?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, don't know, Then he was like, "Ask at the desk." So I asked at the desk, and the manager come down, and I don't see him anymore, but he's good. He's a good guy, so I'm sure he didn't mean it in a bad way, but he definitely judged me and went, "No, there's no jobs." And so anyway, yeah, cool, no worries. And I kept trying, and then he was like, "You're quite relentless, you are, aren't you?" I was like, "Well, yeah." I was like, "I literally live down the road. I know." I was like, "I even know everyone around here, so if anyone's stealing, mate, I'll probably know." Do you know what I mean? Anyway, long story short, I got into there, and like anything I do, I've become a very good security guard. I was very good at what I did. I become a team leader quite fast, and I enjoyed the job. Do you know what I mean? Because it's that buzz of like, we're on the cameras, we're searching for people that are stealing, and it's not just someone walking in, grabbing a TV and walking out. It's quite interesting that you get your 50-year-old woman that's put some makeup under her bag. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
It's almost like a sociological study almost as well, isn't it? In a job like that, lots of people watching.
Yeah, and do you know what? It sounds really bad, because obviously anyone that's listening to this might think of their mum or their nan or something, but it was one of my best ones to catch, because it's like, you've done it, and whether you do or don't, the rules are that you have, and you have to be punished. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's that whole, like, we used to stick to something called SCONE. Let's see if I can remember it now. Selection, concealment, observation, non-payment, and then exit. There you go. But yeah, if they tickle them, we have the power to stop them. It's mad when you get into all that sort of stuff. Again, I just got it's exciting. It was like, yeah, cool, and that's actually something that probably brought me back. Do you know what I'm saying? And gave me more of a belief. Prior to that, I was training actually, which is something I'll always say, is that training saved my life in regards to, it gave me that focus, and that's come before Tesco security, to be honest. But yeah, and then I just started doing that, and then I started to set up a boot camp, like an army-based one, because I used to work for a company called British Military Fitness. I don't know if you've heard of them. But they're all ex-forces, and they just go around. They're literally all over the UK, but they go around all different parks. And the whole idea is that there's no kit. We just turn up and we train people. It might be a run into sprints, into bodyweight stuff, into then we'd use little bits of kit and stuff. It was fun. It was different. So then off the back of that, I sort of based my first business as a boot camp, and I did that around Loughborough. And it was the busiest, best boot camp around because I just put so much energy into it. And before you know it, I was doing morning and night sessions 5 days a week. It was insane. But my aim was to earn enough money there so I could leave Tesco. So I slowly did that and built that up. And then in the sort of like journey of doing that, and then I was quite free and everything, I started personal training, and then that's literally when I bought the gym, because quite simply I was realising that people didn't want to be outside all the time. So
especially in England.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I was like this whole like, army, like military face of like, it's fucking raining, so what? Let's crack on. But actually, you realise people don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's something I had to learn as a personal trainer. When you're like kind of so hard-headed, you're so dedicated to training, and you've got that attitude of, oh, it's raining out, good. Kind of like the old Jocko Willing, oh, this sucks, good.
Yeah.
The average person that just wants to lose a bit of weight isn't thinking good. They're thinking, oh, well, that's fucked up my workout. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I had to understand that and change that quick, because it's not the best business model if you're trying to earn money, right? It's a unique and niche area, of course. But yeah, and I literally got the gym, and the aim was to get the gym to literally have an indoor place to do my boot camps. So I painted it, put rubber floor down, and that was it. But then over time, I was like buying bits of kit, and then since then I've had about 7 different business models. And yeah, but yeah, it's going from them periods though. That was my sort of like remake period. Do you know what I'm saying? I was like redesigning my life, but it was all through, I guess, grit and determination. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't planned. It wasn't, and by that point as well, I didn't even know there was such things as mentors or coaches or anything. Do you know what I'm saying? It was quite like, and I always think as well, like, because I grew up, without a father figure. I had my mum and my dad, my mum and my sister. Sorry, I did everything on my own. My family are not wealthy or anything like that, so it's not like I was given a lot of things. I think I just had that mentality of this is what life is about, and you don't ask people for help because. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So then I just probably ingrained that mentality of just keep moving forward because that's what you do.
What do you think made you ask that security guard if there were any jobs going on that day? What made you take that step?
Honestly, I'd answer it by saying the position of what it was. It wasn't I need a job. Yeah, I've never really thought about that specifically, but like I know the angle of why it would be, and it would have been simply because I could do that job. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I can stand up there and do that. Like
maybe that challenge aspect again.
Yeah. Thing is, I used to be quite because when I first went to the army, I got diagnosed with bipolar, and that is a big reason why I went downhill. Fast forward to now, I haven't got bipolar, I've got ADHD. It was misdiagnosed, but the reason I got diagnosed, the fact that I got diagnosed with that, then turned me into more of that bipolar type of person.
Yeah, it was kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, which, that's the really unfortunate thing, right? And I'd hate to slag doctors off, but the wrong doctor telling you the wrong thing is life changing.
Absolutely.
Like some people, I mean, we all know someone that thinks, and I'm not saying it's disrespectful as well, but they just have that mentality that doctors don't know everything. I'm sorry, but if you think that, you are fucked. Like literally. If you put someone in that much of a pedestal, you are fucked because they don't.
It's a broken system.
Yeah.
Anyone doing any job, don't just like take it for granted. Like same applies to any industry. Just because you show up to a law firm and it's got such and such LLP on the door. Don't go in thinking whoever you sit in front of is going to give you great legal advice. When you go to your doctor's office, don't think whoever's in front of you is going to give you great medical advice. It's like, you know, if you're going to find a PT, I don't think you'd automatically assume they're a great PT. You'd maybe try out 2 or 3. If they kind of showed some signs that they weren't giving you what you needed, you'd think, I'm going to see someone else. We should have that approach, I think, with everybody. You know, just because you've got a plaque on your wall, whatever it is, it's no prerequisite to you being great at your job.
No.
And I think, unfortunately, as well, I actually had someone on the podcast a couple of weeks ago who is a part-time doctor with the NHS, and we talked about the NHS and modern medicine. And I think, you know, there's so much to be grateful for with the NHS, of course, but there is a lot to criticise as well about modern medicine and the NHS.
Yeah. The thing is, it's such a hard one because the NHS has saved my mum's life 3 times. Mum had a brain aneurysm, and I always say it, but she should have died. Do you know what I mean? And like, we got told that was it, and we went home, and that was the end of my life that day. But do you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things to be grateful for.
But that doesn't mean it's beyond criticism also.
Exactly. It's such a ridiculous way of explaining it, but it's just, I always think of these analogies. But it's a bit like you making me food and not asking me what I want, and then you're making me fish cake. I don't like fish. So you might think you're doing me a good job, but I'm not going to eat it. So actually, to me, it's a bad job now because thanks for the offer, but I don't eat fish. Yeah. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it's like I could feed you, you know, gourmet meals, nutritious meals for 7 days. I give you poison on the 8th day. You're not allowed to complain about the poison.
No, do you know what I mean? It's such a. I'm glad you got that because I think some crazy shit sometimes. But do you know what I'm saying? It's such a weird thing. It's like, yeah, but they've done so well. It's like they might do so well on so many things, but if they do really bad on something that they shouldn't have done bad on, you know, it's embarrassing, man.
And that's around where there's no room for error. There's no, to use, I guess, like the lawyer comparison again. Okay, you may, you know, financially ruin someone, you know, with bad legal advice. There is obviously lots of consequences, and then other industries as well. That like there's consequences if you give bad advice, if you give people the wrong protocols. But when it comes to people's health, you've got your health, you've got nothing in this life. That's the fact of it. We live through the physical in this realm, the physical and the mental. That they're all tied. So if you do something that fucks up someone's health, there's no room for error in that arena.
No,
you've got to be as close to perfect as possible, and you can't have an ego. And I think that's something that, in my opinion, I've encountered a lot when it comes to medicine, doctors. You can't have an ego if you're a doctor, but unfortunately, it exists.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. I mean, it's great. It's great to meet a doctor that's. I mean, the brain surgeon that we had for my mum. We've had him every time. Like he's got like a crown on his head, like invisible. Do you know what I mean? He's just you can just tell his aura. He's just an amazing bloke, and you know, he's so confident. He's like, this is what we're going to do, and I'm thinking she's, you know, I mean, the last time we went there, it wasn't too long ago, and we was thinking, you know, every time we go, it's a brain, like she's got an aneurysm that's bursting. It's like if that bursts, she dies, you know. And he's like, yeah, so what we're going to do? We're going to do this. I'm like thinking, what? But actually, he's that confident, and you know what? It makes me feel fucking great. Because it's like, we want you to be like that, and that's confidence in what you're doing. Amazing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas versus like what we're saying with other aspects of things, they just mess things up, and it's like you just can't do that.
That's it. It's a line, isn't it? You've got to be confident in what you're doing so you can execute it well, but not so confident that it drifts into arrogance, and all of a sudden, you know, you've lost your open-mindedness. You can't see the things on the periphery. You can't see other options, other opportunities, you know, potential side effects, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah.
So, going back to what we were talking about, the boot camp, building your gym, the personal training business. When did the strongman stuff come into play? When did you start training strongman? Training strength, training specifically for strongman.
Yeah, so I did sports science degree at college, sports science at college, and then I had a bit of time out. I'm trying to think the order of things now, but then I came back and did my level 2, then level 3 personal training, and then I did sports massage, and I started to get all into that sort of side of things, and that's what I want to do, and that was all obviously. It was before, it would have been before the bootcamp stuff. But yeah, so I did that, and that all moulded into that, and then Then I started working in gyms. So I worked in gyms in Derby whilst I had this here, and I was just sort of like building this up. And do you know what I mean? Like between the two, I remember like literally driving there back and forth like every day. And to be honest, like the way I train, I tried to train like a bodybuilder, but I just didn't get that kick that people get. You know, that whole chest and buys, it's just never been me.
The pump.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, I used to do it, but not get the kick. Anyway, then I'd find myself just squatting and deadlifting more than anything else. And in all fairness, I wasn't looking at anybody doing it. I just wanted to do it. It was just like, it was more of again, it's an ego thing. It's probably a, you know, and I remember back in rep out, it would have been years ago, like people did all the bodybuilding stuff. Then I'm squatting, you know, 5 plates and stuff, and people are like, fucking hell, like, and then that gave me that whole like, oh yeah, do you know what I'm saying? It's, which is partly why we train anyway, right? It's a buzz. But so anyway, so I really got into strength stuff, and I was always doing the strength side. And then I went through a series of learning different things. So I went through all sorts of, I did Olympic lifting, I did CrossFit, I competed in a CrossFit competition years ago. Came like 21st in the Midlands or something. And then I did powerlifting. I got really into powerlifting, and then I switched from powerlifting to strongman. And going through all those things taught me a lot. And actually, collectively, that's what then brought me into strongman, because obviously it's quite open skilled. And then then in strongman, I just got really obsessed with it, like, because it was just a whole different game to what I've ever done before. The first competition I did was a world competition. Didn't realise it was at NEC, and the level was good anyway. And I thought I was really strong, and then realised I wasn't on the day. But then I was chatting to everyone, and then I was on the mic like, yeah, so the top 3 have gone through to worlds. I was like, oh shit! So I didn't realise it was a world qualifier, which helped me, understand my ability. But then after that, I was like, right, I'm going to work on this, and this, and then I just gave myself a year. I was like, I'm going to go to a World's Strongest Man in a year, because I was like, if I was at a world qualifier, why can't I go to World's Strongest Man? It's quite a relentless / stupid mentality, but it's served me well through my life. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. But then the next year I went to Worlds, and I did all the qualifying comps that you have to do to go through. And I was under 90s at the time, and then I went to Worlds, 3-day event, did first 2 days, like suffered like fuck, but it's just the pressure and everything. It was amazing. And then I qualified for the 3rd day, and I was like, shit, I'm in the final. And then I came 9th. But yeah, to walk away 9th in the world after your first year of doing strongman, I was like, fucking right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. Like, I wasn't, because I came back going, fuck, I should have done better. You know, that's just that mentality. But yeah, it was good. And then the year after, I went into, I started in the 90s, but I was struggling to get stronger in the 90s because my frame just wanted to grow. So then I went into the 105s. I had another year in the 90s, sorry, yeah. But then later on in that year, then I went 105. So I did about a year and a half in the 90s, then I did about a year and a half in the 105s. But yeah, then I went into 105s, and actually I was, like anything in weight categories, you'll know this as well, like when you're going up weight category, you've got to be aware that there's going to be a period where you're just not progressing.
Yeah.
But actually, I found that I doubled my progression, which was amazing. So then I literally went through every comp and podiumed on every competition, and I was just like, fuck, this is where I should be. Do you know what I'm saying? And it really made me feel good, because I felt like, right, I've made the right move, I'm doing the right thing, I'm in the right position, and it's where I sat nice naturally. Like now I sit at 106 exactly, and yeah. So then I did all the 105 stuff, and I'm out of it now. I stopped last year.
Yeah, that retirement.
Yeah. Which is not what I planned, but it's just because of, you know, a mix of things in life, I guess, and the point I'm at. Like, I've coached people for many years in strength sports. Obviously, I've got the gym. I've been here 10, 11 years now. But yeah, I feel like I just hit a point in my life last year where I value time off more than in the gym. We've got 3 businesses that we're working on, and it's fucking busy. Like, I just come to a point where I'm like, I need to make a decision. and the decision is that my future is more important than strongman.
So, I mean, it seems like you took to strongman like a duck to water. Obviously, you had a lot of physical training, a lot of experience behind you, but then going in specifically into that discipline, it seems like you leveled up really quickly.
Yeah.
Would you attribute that to, do you think that was naturally your calling, kind of naturally what you were meant to do in sports? Do you think it was all the experience you had behind you with your physical training? What do you think it was that allowed you to progress and do well so quickly?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of my mentality obsessive sort of side of me, but also I've got a lot of years of conditioning mentally and physically. Do you know? And that has to contribute towards that. You know, I've learnt a lot of different disciplines, whether it be again like the powerlifting, Olympic lifting, CrossFit, all that sort of stuff. I'm good at pain tolerance. Like, put me under pain, and I'm. Do you know what I mean? I like it. It's what I enjoy. So all that linked together is what you need to be a successful strongman.
Because how old were you when you did that first competition?
It was 2019. I'm 35 now. Your maths is definitely going to be better than mine.
Math. Words,
Put it on the spot.
I'm good with. Maths. So what, about 30?
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
30.
it is. Yeah, it's 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And I suppose, is that kind of when a strongman's prime is, right? Because I think like the old saying is like your strength peaks around 30.
Yeah,
provided you've been
30,
training.
35, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, the thing is with things like that, so I reflect on who I am and where I'm at and stuff, and obviously last year, you know, I'm very open to say I had a bit of an identity crisis, because I was like, I'm not a strongman. What am I? Who am I? What do I do? And, you know, I'm a very open person. Like, I find it's important, because people who follow me like to know that people are real, but also I like to do it for myself, because actually it's like, I'm not fucking pretending I'm someone I'm not. Like, I struggled last year quite a lot with who am I, where am I going, and but if I'm not a strongman, what am I then? And do you know what I'm saying? And but when I look back, it's like, okay, if I had started strongman earlier, I very much think I would have hit the top of the 105 scene. But because I didn't, my balance and thoughts were, I'm not prepared to do what it takes to win that at this point of my life with what I have. If I didn't have a missus and kids, it would probably be different, you know. And me and Sarah, again, like being transparent with it, had a really rough period a couple of years ago. In our relationship, you know, we've been together 8 years, but we had a really bad period, to the point where we didn't know if we was going to get through it and stuff. You know, I don't know if you know, but we lost a baby, and quite a lot of things, you know, happened that caused a lot of friction and bad stuff. But from that, it made me really think about where do I want to go and what do I actually want, you know. And I would have had to been even more obsessive on what I eat. I'd have had to take a lot of steroids. I'd have had to had less and less work. Do you know what I'm saying?
You would have had to dial back the business, right? The business would have suffered.
Yeah, and it's a crazy one, because when I was coaching strongman, all I needed to do was be good at strongman, and then you get the leads, because that actually is how that game works. But not doing strongman, that's where I lost myself, and I was like, fuck, who wants me now? Do you know what I'm saying? But the point is, it's like, no, my values are more important than that, because actually I'll just rebuild who I am. And that's why I do what I do now. You know, it's a shift. Thing is, when you look at this, and when I look at it in a couple of years' time, it'll be like, that's normal. But when you're in it, it's fucking grind. It's like you feel like you're trying to get up a cliff, and it's just fucking like got, I don't know, jam on it, and you can't. Do you know what I mean? You can't get a grip.
Yeah.
It's yeah. But at the same time, it's what I need. It's what I needed to know to do what I am doing now. You know, I needed that crossroads of, do you want to make, you know, because I was, like I say, it's the way I look at it is I've hit top 3 and everything across the 105s, other than Worlds. I didn't go to Worlds in 105s, but then if I wanted to go top 1 in all the UK events and stuff, and then obviously go to Worlds, and if I really wanted to climb to the top, the difference that I had to do, I'm just not prepared to do, you know.
Yeah, I think being a professional athlete, reaching the top of your discipline, the top of your sport, I suppose in anything, on the balance, it's not healthy.
No.
Like, being great, there's a big cost to that. It's not healthy. Like, physically or mentally. Because the focus is so singular. I think about it myself, like, what am I prepared to do to, like, reach as high as I can in grappling? And it's something that I'm constantly weighing up, constantly thinking about, and it's, you know, it's questions, it's decisions you're going to have to make when you come to those crossroads. What am I prepared to do?
The thing that's tough, and again, I want to say this for people listening as well, because it's powerful to hear this stuff, right? But when you are working towards a successful position, right, whatever that is to you, because each to their own, right? But mine was #1 in the world. There was nothing that, do you know what I mean? Like, and rewind a couple of years ago, I was saying that because that is what I wanted to do. But when you're trying to do that, it's so hard to accept anything other than that. And then when you realise that you're in a position that you have to give up so much of everything else in your life, it tests you to the max, right? But if I was younger and in a different position, that I would have been able to allow more of that to be broken down. But I just couldn't see it be broke anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I've got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. I've got, between me and Sarah, we've got 3 businesses. It's like, we need to put all our energy and efforts into that. And when that's screaming at you so much, not her, the lifestyle that we do want, and then I've also got this, it's 2 lives. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's hard because, but then I used to see Sarah suffer because she knows where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, but she doesn't want to tell me what to do, but she also, it's a crossroads, isn't it? You know, but that's why it made it tough between us. But off the back of that, we learned so much. You know, there's a lot of things we learned as a couple, as individuals, and just generally about relationships and, you know, connections and the importance of life.
Yeah, through those tests, through those trials, you'll learn so much. And I think it's a perspective thing. You can go through a tough time and think, that was a shit time. Or you can look back on it and think, wow, yeah, it was a shit time, but maybe it was necessary for me to learn, you know, X, Y, Z, and now I'm better off for it.
Yeah, which is hard, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of people that won't see that, and they won't think, what have I learned from it?
Yeah, I think so. I think people sometimes, you know, they hear the whole line about, oh, your reality is your perspective, and they think, oh, that's woo-woo, like, it's, you know, reality's reality. I've got to disagree. Your perspective's everything. Your perspective's everything. You can see something as a problem, or you can see it as an opportunity. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it's easy. I think, like, you know, the way I'm wired, it may be easier for me than it is for other people. I'm a natural optimist. You know, I'm a bit of a go-getter. I'm a go-getter. So it's obviously easier for some people than others. But what's the alternative? You're faced with something, and you look at it as a problem and think, oh, this is a problem, and you get through life just dealing. You know, I don't want to look at life as I'm having to just deal with it. It might feel like that at times, but really, I think, you know, the ideal perspective is you're not thinking of life as, oh, I'm having to deal with it. Oh, I'm presented with this. Like, what can I get out of it? What's it going to teach me? Yeah,
it's as if it's like everything that gets thrown at you as a coin, isn't it? You got to flip it over and see what's on the other side. You know, there is another side to it. It's just that you've got to turn it over, because it's not going to turn itself.
Yeah, you know, that's a good metaphor.
It's something that I think I love to look for opportunities, sometimes too much, and which can then obviously make it worse for me, because I end up either setting a new job up, a new business up, or give myself another task which I didn't need. Do you know what I'm saying? But the point is, I always look at everything that we are faced with or we're presented with. It's like, well, what is the good part of it? What is the opportunity out of the back of it, as opposed to thinking, fuck, this is shit. One of the things my mindset coach says, and obviously it's an amazing way to look at things, is you know, when you look at a football stadium, there's, let's say the football game, there's 30,000 people in a stadium, and that means there's 30,000 different perspectives of the game. Now, obviously, the thing is where you think, well, someone might disagree and go, but if you lost 1-0 or, you know, whatever it is, or that, then it's all the same perspective. But the point is, there's still 30,000 different ways of looking at that game. You know, someone might say we lost 1-0. Someone else might say so and so scored a cracking goal. Someone might say the goalkeeper was the man of the match. You know, someone else might say that they got kicked in the back of the head by some fat dude who's, you know, who was struggling to get out of his seat, whatever. And the point is, they all walk away with that different perspective, and therefore, that's why our perception is so important, right? We can't go through life and believe, let's say, other people's perspectives all the time. We have to look at it as our own. And again, using, you know, Mike's words from the guy I'm working with at the minute, he talks a lot about perspective. Perspective is like what you project. So everything that we see, we project. And if you think about it in that respect, it's like, well, work on how you see things, because then it will affect on how you project it. And I think it's a really powerful thing to think, isn't it? Because it's, you know, so often you could see the negative in everything if you want to. And let's be honest, our brain thinks that way anyway, so why add to that? You may as well work on the positive spin on things.
Definitely. I think I read something, I think it was something that Andrew Huberman wrote a while ago, and he said the way our brains work is you have the stimulus, it creates a sensation, you put a perspective on that, then you get the thought, and from the thought you then decide to act off of it. So that perception is a big thing. It leads to what you're going to think about a situation, and what you think about a situation is then going to lead to how you act off the back of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I look at it like a filter system. So obviously, you know, if you think, it's very similar to what you said there, but this is how I like to look at it. So you've got your event, as in what's happened in front of you. From that event, it goes through a filter system in your brain, where your brain analyses it and decides how it's going to see the event. Then from that becomes your state, becomes your behaviour, becomes the result. So if you think about that in a way that to change the result, you've got to change your behaviour. To change the behaviour, you've got to change your state. To change your state, you've got to work on your unconscious mind. You know, because that's the thing that tells us it is what it is, right? But that's where we come back to the whole triggers of a before 7-year-old. You know, there's actually a really interesting 2 stories I could tell you actually that's similar to it. But a man's walking down, me and you are walking down a road, and let's just say I've got a phobia of snakes. I actually don't like them, but I've not got a phobia of them. But let's just say I've got a phobia of snakes, right? We're walking down the road, you see a piece of rope on the side, I see the piece of rope, shit myself, run off, lock myself in a door, panic attack, can't breathe, and you're like, Dean, what's going on? It was a piece of rope, yeah? My perspective was it was a snake. Yeah, and that is that thing where it was a piece of rope. I know it was a piece of rope. You know it was a piece of rope, but I perceived it as it was a snake, and I couldn't get that away from me. You know, and just think how powerful that is, because it's not about the rope. It's not about the event. It's about the emotion that is attached to that event, because what I have not dealt with in my past. You know, another really interesting, this true story. Tony Robbins, obviously. I don't need to ask you if you know him. And anyone that doesn't is probably not alive or living under a rock. But he interviews a lot of people, right? And he interviewed this guy in Death Row in, obviously, USA. And he asked lots of questions, but one of the questions was, you know, what got you to commit the murder like you did and everything else? And his answer was, well, what would you do if your dad was a blazing alcoholic, a druggie, and used to beat your mum up in front of you and beat your brother up and make you watch it? And he was like, okay, interesting. And on to the different parts of the interview, blah, blah, blah. Completely different time, separate interview, separate person. Spoke to this guy who's a super high businessman in America, you know, 15 cars, all the houses, house in Florida, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And he asked the question, so what got you to where you are now and made you be so relentless in what you're doing and everything? And his answer was, well, what would you do if your dad was a blazing alcoholic, a drug addict, beats your mum up, and beats your brother up, and made you watch it? And this is a true story. Search it. They're brothers.
Wow. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. Even if they weren't brothers, though.
Even if they weren't brothers,
the story's the same.
That twist at the end, yeah.
But fuck me, man. I actually think they might be twins. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But my point is, look.
Did Tony Robbins know they were brothers?
Afterwards, found out.
Found out afterwards.
Yeah. I'll find it and send it to you. But it's fucking.
That's powerful.
Thing is, you're a reader, writer. I am not a reader. I can't read. I literally don't. If you gave me that now, I'd ask you to tell me the bits you want me to read. That's how I am. I'm not a reader at all. But things like that I find really, really interesting. But yeah, But look, just look at that. What we just said there, man. It's fucking. It's in black and white. It's evidence that
gives you goosebumps.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's like these guys chose their route. Now they probably let that. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg for both of those, right? The underneath part is where the work happened, but actually there'll be a part there which they were probably both questioning where am I going, what we're doing, but they had a choice. You know, and that's that thing, isn't it? It's how you perceive things and what you decide to do off the back of that which determines the direction you go.
Yeah, it's that fork in the road. Oftentimes, it does come down to those polar opposites. I think humans, we tend to live in extremes, or maybe that's just how I think. Because I believe. But I think, you're either going to go down a path and it's going to land you in a pretty rubbish place, or you're going to go down another and it's going to land you in a very prosperous place. And it can come down to that one decision, which is why it's so important to be conscious, to be switched on, to deal with whatever traumas you've got in your life, to make sure your mind's clear, make sure your ego's in check, because you could be faced with that life-changing decision when you walk out the door today. You don't know it's going to be that life-changing decision, but you might look back on it in 10 years and you realise, wow, like when I made that decision, and thank God I made it right, it led to so much.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of decisions that I've made over the years that I question why I did it. But again, I always hold myself to it's what put me where I am now.
That's it. It's I think what's important with those is the decisions that we got wrong is that we realise and we learn from them. Again, you can see it as, oh, I fucked up there, or you can see it as, okay, I learned something
that did this to me. Yeah, it's very true.
Going back to physical training, the strongman side of things, obviously so much training under your belt, reach such a high level in strongman. What do most people get wrong when they are trying to get stronger? What do most people do wrong when it comes to strength training?
I'd say my number one thing is they try and rush it. I've still got obviously a lot of people that I coach in the strongman stuff. I deal with it all the time where people are comparing themselves all the time to people that are not even comparable, but they don't see that. You know, there's all sorts of obviously variables towards what I'm saying, but the point is, people think about other people, where they're at, what they're doing, this, that, and the other. They're not focused on themselves, and they try and skip the game. They try and, jump a few levels, and that is only going to put them into a position where they're chasing something that they're never ever going to get. They're trying to live up to other people's standards other than their own, and I think it's just like they're just trying to rush and not accept the process it takes. That exact thing is the same in business as it is in training, right? People start a business and they want to be having every day off. Do you know what I'm saying? They start training and they're like, and they start adding weight on it and they hit that newbie gains, whatever it is. Even when you switch discipline, you go from one to another, like you get newbie gains again. It's great. It's a great feeling. But then you're going to hit a plateau. And if you haven't got that resilience and that let's say vision and focus to actually push through that gap, and then you're going to be faced with quite a lot of problems, because you're going to see them as problems as opposed to growth periods. But yeah, that's the thing I'd say that most people do from what I see is they just try and rush it too much and not appreciate the work that needs to be put in.
And when it comes to reps and sets, is the old 5x5 the gold standard? What do you like to do in terms of reps and sets for someone that's looking to get stronger? Typically,
depends on who it is and where they've come from, right? I'm a massive fan of 7, 5, 3, 1. If we're playing with numbers, playing with variations and stuff. But I'm a bigger fan of how well you move the weight over the weight you move. And something I designed this as a method years ago, and I've sort of come away from it because it's not my huge focus. But I like to look at when you train to focus on how well you move the implement, bar, whatever it may be. Obviously in strongman there's a lot of different things, right? But how you can make it harder without adding load on. Yeah, you'll be familiar with it anyway. It's nothing rocket science, but it's like your eccentrics, your banded stuff, your pause stuff, all these things. And that's the thing I go to over reps, if you know what I'm trying to say, because it's all about how you execute as opposed to if I'm honest, yes, the reps are important. Anywhere around there, anywhere past 10 reps is not really going to get you strong, we know that. But it's going to get your ligaments and joints and tendons strong, which is going to result in you getting stronger. But when it comes to, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like for me, yes, 7, 5, 3, 1. I love those numbers to be playing with. But I'm much more about how you move the weight over
quality over quantity.
Yeah, because it's the thing that I find that's people can, because let's be honest, right? If you're trying to get 5 rep max, and I don't know if you've done this yourself, but when you've seen it for so many years, you just see it and you sort of go, unless they learn, you're just going to keep doing the same thing. But people reset themselves. It's like, just change direction.
Yeah, you got to change the stimulus, haven't you?
Yeah, it's like, because you're just trying to get that 5 rep max up, or you're just trying to get that 3 rep max up. And of course, do that every so often. I'm not saying don't. But what about, and this is, food for thought for anyone if they want to think about it like this. Let's just say a push press, right? You've got a push press. What's your 5 rep max push press? What's your 5 rep max push press with bands? What's your 5 rep max push press with a pause dip for 3 seconds? What's your 5 rep? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, we can do this all day. But the point is, work them all out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? And build that versatile variability within your training, because that's what's going to give you, and I'm probably going from a bit of a neurodiverse brain cell with this, but it's a bit like, it's going to give you so many elements to look into, and I mean, I take the piss out of powerlifters because I like to, but it's that whole like, what percentage, what RP, blah, blah. I get it. I'm only pissing around with them. I know it's important, but there's only so much you can do with that, and it's quite simply, it's like, just change shit round. You don't need to do it the same as everybody else. It makes your training so much more fun, but it also, you will see the level of progression that you'll get over, 1, enjoying it more, and 2, just testing your body out and trying it in different formats. I think I've answered that in a really long way, but I feel like I've answered it. I feel like I've answered it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Should everyone be squatting and deadlifting? Athletes and non-athletes?
Should everyone be squatting and deadlifting? Straight answer, no.
Why?
So...
Why, and go into the variables, like athletes,
yeah.
Who should be, who shouldn't be?
I definitely wasn't going to leave it there, but I think as a straight answer, no. Right? And I'm going to be really friendly here, because a couple of years ago I might have said yeah. But no, the reason I'm saying no, right, is because both of them no. Should everyone squat to a degree? Yes. Why? Because you sit on the toilet and you get back up. Yeah, it's functional movement. You sit on the sofa, you, I don't know, play on the floor with your kid, and then you like a twat getting up because you can't actually squat. Yeah, so there's that whole functionality of we need to do that movement. Doing it under load is going to help you last longer, be harder to kill, and everything else, right? Deadlifting, should everyone deadlift? Obviously, a few years ago I would say yes, but let's be honest, it's not something that everybody needs to necessarily do, because for the people who don't want to lift and everything, they could take a different approach which will give them the same result. And I'm saying that through complete changing my mentality for people that need to hear it in that respect, but also, like, for example, I've got a guy who I coach, I don't know if you know Lewis Bing.
I don't know.
No, so he will be on World's Strongest Man stage. It's just a matter of time. Young lad, he's insane lifter. He's got him and Max. I coach both of them, and we play them off with each other because they're both as good as each other, and they've got slightly different advantages and stuff. But but they're both pulling like 420 at the age of 21, and it's fucking insane, right? And so anyway, Lewis is bless him, he's autistic, right? And he just loves to do shit he shouldn't do. Not long ago, he he went to watch his mate in a white collar fight. Got back to the gym, started punching bags, snapped his bicep. Yeah, why did you do that, Lewis? Oh, because my mate was right. You're a twat. Yeah, he actually snapped his bicep. We had to fully have him out of training for a bit, train his legs. Not long ago, he tore his hamstring. So my point is where I'm going, right, is when you realise, and they come out the back of his last injury, and he's pulled 430. Right. My point is here that you can do a lot of things to still get the same result without doing the thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so do you need to deadlift? No. But do you need to stimulate the muscles that deadlift stimulates? Yes. So, you know, when you think about, like, this is the thing, right? It's like, if we say that everyone needs to do certain things, we can't, because everyone's not the same. And then people feel like they fail because they don't do that thing. Is it going to benefit people? Yes, of course it is. It's going to, lifting weights is going to help people. Lifting weights is going to benefit people in many ways of recovery and strength and longevity and everything. But yeah, I'm just quite a fan nowadays of not being, tarring everyone with the same brush to say everyone needs to do it.
So people that aren't deadlifting for one reason or another, they've got an injury, the risk of injury just isn't worth it for them. What should they be doing if they're not deadlifting to still get that stimulus?
Yeah. So if you're thinking muscle specific, if you're thinking exercise specific, obviously I can aim at a couple of things there. But the first thing I'd say there is they should be focusing on the area of the muscle of the reason why they can't do it. Example, let's just say someone's got a super long torso and long femurs, do you know what I'm saying, like that, and they're just not built for deadlifting, and they don't like it, they don't enjoy it. Tell them to do it, and they're a failure. Yeah, it's a bit like you telling me to read. I've been, blessed people. They've bought me loads of books, and until they find out, I genuinely will not read it. Do you know what I mean? So that's just in case you don't buy a book. No, but but by telling me to read a book, I'm a failure because I don't read it. But I'm not. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I just have that thing of like, it doesn't matter. You are not a failure. Like, there is other ways around everything in life, right? So when it comes to specifically what do you need to do, if you've got a long torso and you need to protect the lower back, well then let's start doing more hyperextension stuff. So reverse hyperextensions, loaded carries, all these things that are involving the core in different ways without deadlifting. Belt squatting. Do you know what I mean? All these different things. There's so many different variations that you can do and think out the box that are actually most likely going to benefit you further anyway. Because most people that deadlift, they not most people, that's wrong. A lot of people that deadlift, they don't deadlift to the most effective way. They deadlift how their body is lifting at that point, unless they're really stripping themselves back and understanding their movement pattern. So when it comes to that stuff, you've got to strengthen every single muscle around it, right? You've got your erectors, you've got your obliques, you've got your glutes, you've got your hamstrings, all the really important muscles that actually make that movement pattern work. So yeah, it'd just be like splitting all that sort of stuff down, and maybe doing some rack pulls, high pulls and things like that to still get that similar stimulus.
Are you a fan of sumo deadlifts at all?
No.
No, why not?
It's for pussies. No, I'll always say that. I had a sign in the gym for a while ago saying no sumo deadlifting, but I actually got a lot of people asking me, and I was like, it's a joke.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of sumos. No. Am I a fan of it? No. Simply because I feel like it's obviously, this is the huge question of the strength industry, isn't it? I do feel like it's a cop out, if I'm honest. And that's down to my own studies of when I say to people, why do you sumo deadlift it? And they say, because it's easier. So it proves that it's you're choosing the easy way out, right? But to put that to bed, because it is, mate, fuck it, if you pick 500 kilos off the floor, it doesn't matter how you do it, right? It's 500 kilos. But it's a little bit like, my argument comes on this, so I can pull 420 on a trap bar, but I can't pull that on a normal bar. So should I keep doing the trap bar because it makes me look more impressive? Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it is that thing, like, it is known that people can do that better if you have that physique and shape that's built for that. But But when it comes to it as a movement pattern, don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily use it myself all the time, but I have used it in the past myself and a lot of other people as a good accessory because it just gets your body working in a different way. Again, we want to move our body in different patterns, right? And ways of building your body, you know, your ligaments, your joints, and stretch them in different directions. So I do think it has a place. I will just always rip it before I say anything good about it.
Yeah, I've kind of got the same perspective. I've always deadlifted conventional. That's just how I learned to do it. But recently I've realised the adductor focus you get from sumo deadlifts is actually quite good for a lot of grapplers, I think. Because obviously guard work, you need strong adductors.
Oh, God, yeah.
And that can be a very difficult thing to train. Obviously you can use the those machines that the girls like to use, but again, you've got to rip people for that.
Yeah, as I say, I'd argue that.
Pick your poison. Use the adductor machine or use a sumo deadlift.
But as well, let's be honest, right? If you had a crazy strong adductor machine focus, it's going to help because if you're grabbing onto someone, you know, and
but you still got to be ripped for it.
Oh, of course, yeah. You just got to do it. Like you just got to buy one in your garage and don't let anyone.
Do it in private. Do it in private.
Sumo deadlifts and
after hours, no one's in the gym.
Yeah.
Lights off.
Yeah, I'm going now. And then you're in the corner like, yeah.
I stole this question from Chris Williamson. I don't know if you know Chris Williamson. He's a podcaster.
Yeah.
So he asks people.
Tell the next person. Is it that one? What would you say for the next person or ask?
No. It's he asks people. You only have 10 exercises you can do for the rest of your life. I've cut it in half. 5 exercises. So 5 exercises that you can do for the rest of your life. You can't do any others. It can be a form of cardio, or it can be any kind of movement, whether it's strength based, mobility based. What are your 5 for the rest of your life?
Nice. I've not listened to him for a while, so he must change it. But he always used to ask the question of like, what would you ask the next person that comes on the podcast?
Oh, okay.
But anyway, are we talking like movement patterns? Yeah, in any format. Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying gym based sort of like exercises?
Gym based, but like if you said running, that counts as 1. Or if you said cycling, that counts as 1.
Yeah. So what would I do for the rest of my life? I would deadlift. I would press.
What kind of press?
I'd go for a standard bar press. As much as I love log.
Military style?
Push
press.
Yeah.
So deadlift.
Yeah.
Conventional.
Yeah.
Push press.
Yeah.
Push press.
It'd be shit if I said sumo then, wouldn't it? After just ripping it.
Sumo, adductor machine.
Yeah. And that's it. I don't want the other 3. So those 2, I would definitely pick something like a sandbag to pick up and run with or something like that.
Okay. So sandbag, farmer runs.
Yeah, something in an element of pick up that's heavy, because I'm transferring this to what I need to do in life, right? Me and you went out for a walk and you broke both your legs. What am I going to do? Pick you up and... Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I think about it like that, and it's like, yeah. And then I'd say... row.
As in rowing machine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Literally because I always find it one of those machines that you can't cop out of. If you're not pulling it and pressing your legs, it doesn't look good. Do you know what I'm saying? It's my favourite conditioning if I was going to put a conditioning machine as a thing. Simply because you can't fake it. You're using it or not. But it's such a good all-round body movement, right? And yeah. And then the other thing is I would pick a yoke. Again, it's just a heavy weight on your back that you are lifting and able to get your full body workout with.
So a similar kind of movement and stimulus to the sandbag carries.
Yeah, I mean, your sandbag carry it's a front carry sort of thing, picking up from the floor, whereas a yoke's on your back. Yeah, but yeah, it's in the same. Yeah.
So we've got conventional deadlift, push press, sandbag carry,
yeah,
rower, yoke.
And yoke. Yeah,
I think that's a good. Yeah. If you just do those 5 exercises, you're going to get in good.
That's actually where I was going with it as well. I was trying to think of different areas of your body, different stimuluses and energy systems. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good place.
Yeah, off the back of that, I'm going to write a program and I'll send it.
Yeah.
It just involves them. Yeah.
And this leads me on to another question I've got written down, actually. How important is having cardio in your program when you're a strongman, when you're a strength-based athlete? How important is it to, like, say, get on a cycling machine and do 45 minutes of aerobic work? Is that going to how much is that going to benefit you?
To put an exact number on, it depends on the individual and depends on the exact discipline. But if we're just going, look, general public that wants to do strength training is very important. Like, people forget the blood flow aspect of recovery, of training. And look, it's a very simple theory, but if we're trying to build a big base and we're trying to, you know, peak that pyramid and hit that 1 rep max or whatever that is, right? It doesn't have to be a 1 rep max, it's your peak of what you're trying to do. The bigger the base is, the bigger the peak is. And people forget this, don't they? They go through phases, especially like newbies into the gym. They'll go through phases of peaking their lifts, feeling good, feeling great, getting to a point, and then they go bang. And again, depending on your mentality, depends on what you do next. So if you work on your aerobic fitness, like, look, you just need to do like zone 2, zone 3 stuff sometimes. It's just getting yourself on that constant, you know, movement pattern to increase your lung capacity, to help your recovery, to increase your muscle endurance, to be able to push more effectively for longer. And if you think of that as a package, like, you can't argue why that wouldn't benefit you. And, you know, there's obviously, you know, your big open weight powerlifters that don't do anything like that. But then I would always question, how long are they going to live? Bit harsh, but it's true.
Yeah.
You know.
But do you think for their sport, for reaching the elite of the elite in powerlifting, do you think it's not really going to have much of a benefit at all?
As an individual person, which they do anyway, they can argue that, but again, it's always a door that they've never opened, right? So I would argue against it, to be like, but you haven't opened that door, so actually you're talking through your arse.
Yeah.
You know, but so I'd say, yeah, you need it. Like, you do need it, and it's going to get you further because it's going to condition your mind as well. You know, why I'm a massive believer of that whole, like, you know, why would you not do something? It's like obviously, as you probably see, I'm running at the minute. You know, I've not run since the army, and I did my first 5K the other day, which was like shit time, but I felt amazing for doing it. And but yeah, it's that whole thing, isn't it? About like, why would you know that you can't do something? So even that could unlock something mentally for you to know that you are in a better place. So yeah, I'd say you do need it. People are just being stubborn and probably too, you know, one focused for saying that they don't need it.
Yeah, as specific as your sport may be, like, just being in good shape, which is what that aerobic training gives you, just being in all-round good fitness is going to help you regardless of how specific your sport is. Because if you're not fit, you're not healthy, you get ill, or, you know, you're struggling to walk up the stairs, you can't breathe, that's going to have an impact on your sport. No matter how strength-based, no matter how power-based, no matter how, like, short your event is, it's going to have an impact. Yeah,
it is.
I think.
And it's a bit like, I think you know a lot about running as well, but it's a bit like the over-under rule, you know. I mean, I've got a 5K to do, so I'm doing a lot of 3.5s, and I've gone up to a 6 so far, but I'll be pushing up to probably about a 9. You know, do the under-over work, the middle comes really well.
Yeah,
so why wouldn't you do that in powerlifting? It's
the same with lifting. You just keep trying to hit that 5 rep max. You just keep running 5Ks.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to improve that much.
Yeah. Could be a good little program, that 5K and 5RM.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true.
It's new 5x5.
Yeah.
So, to finish off, I ask pretty much every guest, what does success mean to you? And what's the meaning of life? And are those the same thing, or are they different?
That's a very good question. It's fallen at a perfect point of you asking me what success is, because I had a really good argument with someone the other day, online. I like every so often. No, the guy, so online, some guy, I'll give you context and then I'll answer your question. But he was basically, we were talking about success. He was talking about success. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was one of my posts, and he commented on it saying, "But you can't be successful without being relentless." Now, I can't help but think you really need to work on yourself, right? You can't just think about that, right? You can't be successful without being relentless. Okay, so what you're doing there is you are telling me what success is, yeah? Because he didn't actually break this down, but looking at his profile, and he's a property guy, and I know what he will think success is: money, right? And you know what, rightly so, it is to a degree for many, many people. But he's then gone, you can't be successful without being relentless. Well, relentless will make you successful if you have money. Correct. That's one way of getting there. Something that I've learned over the years is that success is internally as opposed to externally, which has took me a long time to grasp that, if I'm honest. And success to me right now is, yes, having a lot of money to be able to have a lot of freedom. Again, just a side story this a little bit, but a while ago set myself a goal of hitting £1 million. About a month into it, I didn't like it and started to really hate the fact I set it, because I'm very obsessive and relentless. That's not good for me, because quite simply I will do it fast and relentlessly and in a very unhealthy way. Does that mean I'm not successful now? No. Yeah. So then we go, right, how do I stimulate myself enough, because that's what I need? How do I earn money that makes me feel like I've hit a really good point in my life, that I'm able to have more freedom, have more experiences, feel successful in my way of, you know, what I've reached and everything. So now what I've done is I've set myself a target of 100 grand a year, working on 25 hours a week. 100 grand a year isn't anything crazy, but on 25 hours a week, it's pretty crazy. So I've put that constraint in, which has now made me like hungry for it. So now, when you ask me what success is, success for me is when I hit that 100 grand on 25 hours a week. Because that 25 hours a week is going to enable me to wake up, you know, in the morning and serve myself before I open my phone or serve other people. It's going to enable me to work away when I want to work away, because I through my hours of what I do, I can. It's going to enable me, I don't know if you've seen recently, but we've done the van up, and it's like my project that I've been doing. I can go away whenever I want at that, 4 days away, 5 days away, whatever. Spend time with the kids. Their holidays is something we've never got into, but we're doing it this year, where every single holiday we go away, we do something. We haven't done it before, just because the ages of the kids, it's never felt that the same things happen. But now, obviously, they're both in school. That's what we will now religiously do, because that's our sort of like, you know. So this is that to me is what success actually is, because it's actually like, it's living by what you see is fit for your family and what your experiences are and what you want to do. We want to get our kids into water sports. I don't know. I mean, I do know why, but I sort of don't know why in the respects of like, we've not done it yet, but it's just something I want to do, because I want to be like active family and stuff like that. Do you know what I'm saying? So all these parts build success to me, because it's, but you do need the money to be able to do those things. And that's the thing where I think a lot of people get shitty and mixed up within the head. Do you know what I mean? Some people get shitty going, oh, you don't need money to be successful. It's like, that's how you're seeing it, and that's fine. But we all know cost of living's fucking going through the roof.
There are realities that you have to face sooner or later.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I'm not being funny, but I'm not going to be the person that moans that I haven't got money, because we can all go and make our own money, you know. So yeah, so for me, that's what success is. You know, it's having the ability to feel like you can do what you want when you want to do it, within reason, obviously, because if you could completely do what you want when you want to do it, I feel like you wouldn't be living a real life.
You've got responsibilities. That's
you know,
baked into life.
I mean, anyone that says they can do what they want when they want, it's a bit like, then you are not really held responsible for anything, right? But that being said, I also want to know that I feel fulfilled, because I haven't, and I'll, you know, still say it now, I haven't ever put my finger on feeling fulfilled as a person. I may not ever, I don't know. But it's something that I'm constantly working on, because I'm always that, what's next? And that is my mentality, that is who I am. But I also like to learn to be like, you know, I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, and I don't need to search for anything else.
Find the stillness in the movement.
Yeah. Which, you tell someone with ADHD to do that.
Oh,
it's
easier said than done for anyone, right?
But I'm also a fan of, but that doesn't mean I can't find it, right? I've just got to find it my way. It's a little bit like, we're going slightly off track here, but it's a little bit like when people say, obviously one of the things I teach in LMX is about I teach 5 flames. I think you've probably seen my method that I've designed, and it's walking through each flame that you need to focus on in life. Now, one of them is fun. When people go, I struggle to do that, I don't know what to do. It's like, but it's anything that you find stimulation from. For me, it's in the sauna. I come out of the sauna, I sometimes set up 3 businesses because I just feel great in the sauna, and I just do all this shit. But it's whatever you find. But that for me that's how I get stimulated, and that's how I relax. I've got a drone, and I like to just go and piss around with that. Again, Sarah used to say to me years ago, "But you're not relaxing." I'm like, "But I am." Because I can't just sit and relax. I genuinely feel depressed if I sit for too long. It might sound extreme, but that's because that's not how my brain works. So I need to do something. So my way of relaxing and having fun is doing something low stimulated. So that's part of who I want to be and what I want to do. It's like I want to be able to do things like that because I know that serves me well. And if I'm working constantly, which is not good for me, then I'm not getting that same response, am I? What was the second part to your question? So what is success? The meaning of life.
Is it the same as success, or is it different? Are they 2 different things?
Never been asked it, never thought about it. But what I'm going to say is the meaning of life is obviously very different for everybody, right? We all have different tastes, visions, senses in every manner, right? But when you think about the life that you live, the life that I live, I can't tell you yours, you can't tell me mine. I might look happy, but I might not be. You might look sad, but you might be happy. Do you know what I'm saying? There's no real blueprint, is there? So, when I think about what you're asking me there, I've never really thought about it, but this is just off the top of my head. Your success, the meaning of life is how you want to build it to be. So actually, it would, in that respect, be linked to what you see as successful. Is my first way of looking at it, because quite simply, it's what you make it. So why isn't that successful? Yeah. Unless you're not controlling your life, and unless you're not going the way you want to go.
Then a successful life is meaningful.
Yeah, because that is the meaning of life, right? Because we're on this planet to live it. We're not on this planet to just stroll along. But that being said, and I always use this, and I've thought this for years and years. That whole relentless mentality of what's next, what competition, what we're doing, how much I'm earning, all this. Then you got I always use a milkman. I don't know why, but I always think then there's this milkman that's got a dog, no wife, no kids, doesn't want a wife, doesn't want a kids, and he's fucking buzzing. Do you know what I'm saying? To me, he looks like a boring bastard. He's not a real person, so I'll say it as harsh as that. But to him, he's fucking living life to his max. He hasn't got bills. He hasn't got. Do you know what I'm saying? So my point is that's what he is. He thinks life is, and fair play to him. And that's that thing where it's like, so it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, and when you're trying to chase your tail because I'm trying to fucking do what someone else is doing, it's like you're not living yours. You living someone else's life. So it's like you keep doing that, mate, because you may as well jump in his pocket and do it with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never really thought about it like that, but that's my 2 pence.
I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, isn't it? Because obviously it's like there's so many elements, isn't there, to what people think success is. People, and rightly so. It's like a guy who commented on my thing the other day. I always play with people on social media and stuff, sometimes a bit too much. But look, everything is fake. Everything is fake. Nothing is real. All your followers, fake. All my followers, fake. All the money in my bank, fake. Do you know what I'm saying? Nothing is actually real. It can go in a second. And when you start to think that way, and you start to be like, and this is me trying to become at peace with myself and stuff that I've said to myself over the last, year that has helped me realize things. It's like all those times you get stressed and you think that life is over or life is shit, and it's like it's actually not. And it could come down to the smallest of things or the biggest of things sometimes. But the bottom line is, I mean, it seems like, when people are going through traumas or people die and things like that, it's fucking horrendous. It's shit. It's life-changing. It's the worst thing you could think of at that moment. But life still carries on. You still carry on. We still have the next day to look forward to and everything else. And it's something that when you start to realise that things come and go and, you can create the next step, you're able to control so much more of where you're going in life.
Dean, I think you're awesome. Thank you for this
Appreciate it,
conversation. Man. Thank you for having me here.
Hope we've turned some, prick some ears up is a way of putting it.
I'm sure you have.
Hope a lot of people take some bits from it. But no, appreciate you, man. It's really good to see you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
At my studio.
Yeah.
But, you're more than welcome to use it whenever you want. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Dean.